What is going on, everyone? This is JABO, your pit stop quick one-stop shop for all things NASCAR and other sports that are just a bit outside. I'm your host, Brendan Bryan. Let's get started. The Truck Series Round of 10 cutoff race witnessed a lot of drama for the front runners and the bubble drivers. Strategy in the final stage turned the race into a fuel race in which the 11 of Corey Heim was running down the 98 of Ty Majeski, who was already heavily saving fuel. Also, the 38 of Lane Riggs was running within sight of Heim in case of any mistakes to capture his third win in a row. However, it was not meant to be for Majeski or Riggs, as Majeski ran out of fuel in the final few laps of the race, and Riggs could not chase down the dominant 11, who would go on to win his 6th race of the year. The bubble drivers would see more drama, as the 99 of Ben Rhodes started in 4th but quickly fell back, the 43 of Daniel Dye had a top 10 car all day, and the 9 of Grant Enfinger started the race with squat. Just nothing. Just like the last few weeks, just running back there in the mid-teens. However, fortune would shine favor on the 9, as Dye would essentially be eliminated from the playoffs after issues forced him to pit under the green flag, leaving him multiple laps down for the rest of the race. But Rhodes still had some life, as pit strategy had him in a top 5 position late in the race, while Grant Enfinger, after pitting, was doing all that he could to slice up through the 20s, believe it or not, and the teens, eventually creeping into the top 10. However, Rhodes and many others were well short on fuel, and Enfinger found another gear and would finish 9th, while Rhodes fell back to coast to the checkers in 22nd, eliminating him from the playoffs, and will have no chance to defend his title this year at Phoenix. The NASCAR Xfinity Series playoff opener saw more than its fair share of drama throughout the race, as multiple playoff drivers had run-ins with one another. The 21 of Austin Hill would spin the 98 of Riley Herbst at the end of Stage 2. The 16 of A.J. Allmendinger would run into the 8 of Sammy Smith at the beginning of the race, and both drivers would flounder, with Smith finishing 22nd and Allmendinger finishing 17th. However, the 3 best cars were the 00 of Cole Custer, the 81 of Chandler Smith, and the 20 of Eric Almirola. Custer chased down the slowing Smith late in the race, but had trouble getting around, and that allowed Almirola to close within just tenths of both. When Custer finally got by Chandler Smith, the 20 was within striking distance of both and was able to pass both of them in the closing laps of the race to take his 2nd win of the year in only his 8th start. After the race, Custer would be mad at the 81 of Smith for earlier contact during the restart, not during the hard racing that took place at the end of the race, and made it sound like there was payback coming. After choking away the regular season championship the week prior, the 7 of Justin Allgaier wrecked early in the race after entering the playoffs as the number 1 seed, and now finds himself one below the cut line. Typical. Sammy Smith, A.J. Allmendinger, and Parker Kligerman all sit double-digit points below the cut line entering Talladega. However, one driver with a surprisingly good day was Shane Van Gisbergen, who ran towards the back end of the field for most of the race, but slowly made progress through the front before making a late race charge to finish an impressive 8th, which is his first top 10 at a traditional mile-and-a-half racetrack. Now taking a look at the first Cup race of the round of 12 at Kansas. The race had a little bit of everything, and similar to Watkins Glen, this race was not particularly friendly to playoff drivers, which sucks for them since this is the only non-wildcard track in the round, with Talladega and the Roval just ahead. Toyota looked fast early as usual at this race, with the 20 of Christopher Bell leading 122 laps in the race, which was the high, but he choked away both stage wins by running into the wall and then never really recovered and would end up finishing 7th overall. Hendrick teammates of the 24 William Byron and the 48 of Alex Bowman would take advantage of these mistakes and win stage 1 and 2 respectively. The Penske Fords were also fast as they ran all in the top 10 and even the top 5 during the first half of the race, but unlucky breaks plagued the team as the 22 of Joey Logano had a loose lug nut and would only recover to 14th. The 12 of Ryan Blaney also had a loose lug nut, but a late race caution saved his race and he would finish 4th. And finally, the 2 of Austin Cindric seemed to be having a heck of a race before a late race crash relegated him to 34th. After an early caution in Stage 3, half the field stayed out while the other half, mostly playoff drivers, pitted to stay safe on fuel strategy. This left the race in the hands of three winless drivers this year. In the lead, you had the one of Ross Chastain, then in second, the 8 of Kyle Busch, and finally in third, and the recently eliminated 19 of Martin Truex Jr. Busch would catch Chastain over the run, and after a multi-lap battle, would pass the Watermelon Man in a few laps before pit stops. Busch would extend his lead during the green flag pit stops and seemed to have the race in the bag. However, as he caught traffic, Chastain caught back up to Busch, and then, well, the last car on the lead lap in 26 was playoff driver, the 14 of Chase Briscoe. He only gave Busch the minimum space required to pass him on the outside lane, which was the preferred lane all day. Busch would take his offer and with only inches to spare would get to the outside of Briscoe before getting loose, hitting the wall off of 2 and spinning down the back straightaway. This incident is currently the pinnacle of the Kyle Busch misery tour this season, as Busch seemed to have no words after the race, leaving him only 6 more opportunities to extend his winning streak to an undreamable 20 consecutive seasons. After a quick caution on the ensuing restart, Martin Truex Jr. had control of the field of the final restart of the race, which, well, he bungled and let the one of Ross Chastain and William Byron get by. Truex would reel them both back into with about 0.8 of a second of the leaders, but no closer, and would finish a heart-wrenching third. The win would be fought between, as I previously mentioned, Chastain and Byron. However, the 24 car could never get within striking distance of the Watermelon Man. It came up just a few car lengths short as Chastain scored his first victory on the season. That means no playoff drivers are locked in to the next round of the playoffs heading into Talladega, meaning just about anything could happen. That is certainly sure for the 5 of Kyle Larson, who entered the race as the 1 seed, but similar to Atlanta, he had a flat tire and hit the wall, taking all the pace out of his race car, and would only rally to finish 26. But with his points cushion, he still is 18 to the good. However, the 99 of Daniel Suarez, the 14 of Chase Briscoe, and the 2 of Austin Cindric leave Kansas double digits below the cut line, most likely needing a win in the next 2 races to advance. The final driver on the outside looking in is surprisingly the regular season champion, the 45 of Tyler Reddick, who is currently on a 3-race skid of 20th place finishes or worse, and now stares down the barrel of an epic playoff collapse. No playoff drivers are safe leaving Kansas. In other news from NASCAR, Harrison Burton found a new home in the Xfinity Series in 2025. He'll be racing for the struggling AM Racing, who has had a rotating door of drivers this season, which includes Hailie Deegan, Josh Berry, and Joey Logano. Burton looks to bring back the potential seen in the team in years prior. Geico has announced that it will be ending its premier partnership with NASCAR following the end of the 2024 season. This is the first of NASCAR's premier sponsors to leave following the model's inception in 2020. There's no word if Geico will be replaced, and if so, by who. Ty Dillon and Rackley War Racing have decided to amicably part ways for the rest of the season. Following a playoff appearance and a win with Matt DiBenedetto, the team looked to have further success with the younger Dillon brother. I even predicted he would make the playoffs this year based on consistency. However, Dillon's tenure in the 25 has been a major disappointment. In the first race after Dillon, Rackley War scored its first top 5 of the season, with Dawson Sutton making only his 3rd ever Truck Series start. But do not worry, Ty Dillon fans, your driver is failing upwards, as he will be driving for Colleague Racing full-time next year in the NASCAR Cup Series, replacing Daniel Hemrick, who has already matched Dillon's career Cup stats in only a quarter of the starts. Congrats to Dillon, who now looks to be an early frontrunner for Toilet Bowl champion in NASCAR's Cup Series in 2025. Spire and Rick Ware Racing swap drivers starting this weekend at Kansas, with Justin Haley now driving the 7 car for Spire, while LaJoie is relegated to the 51 of Rick Ware Racing. However, in their debuts, LaJoie wins round 1 with a 15th place finish, while Haley, who ran in the top 15 all day, wrecked late and would finish in 33rd. So the score is 1-0 in favor of LaJoie entering Talladega. That's a surprising turn of events. Finally, the biggest news from NASCAR possibly in the last 5 years comes from 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports, who are suing NASCAR and CEO Jim France in a federal antitrust lawsuit. These two teams a month ago did not sign the new charter agreement following months of intense negotiation with the governing body. The teams hired antitrust lawyer Jeffrey Kessler to represent them. This is important because Kessler is known for representing athletes across pretty much every major sport you can think of, getting equal pay for the U.S. women's soccer team, and being a leading figure in NIL, which allows college student athletes to earn money from their likeness. He stated that this case is essentially a slam dunk. The plaintiffs are seeking an injunction to allow the two teams to participate in the 2025 season while legal proceedings continue. A trial date has not been set, but if there is one, it will most likely be in 2025. As of this recording, NASCAR has yet to publicly respond to the lawsuit. Personally, I hope the situation gets resolved before ever going to trial. There's no need to divide the sport possibly into separate leagues like what happened to IndyCar over 20 years ago. I hope that both sides can come to an understanding for the betterment of the sport, because what we all want to see in the end is competitive racing on Sundays. Looking ahead to this weekend, all 3 NASCAR series will take on freaking Talladega. Heck yeah! I won't be able to attend this year, but still, heck yeah! For the Truck Series, it is the first race of the round of 8, and an opportunity for those a bracket below Himes and Eckes to strike like a certain Grant Enfinger. This will be the second race for the Xfinity Series round of 12, and continuing with the overall theme for this upcoming race, it is an opportunity for those a step behind to get ahead, or just an easy win for Austin Hill. You never know. Finally, the Cup Series enters a pivotal second race in the round of 12, which will decide the stakes for the cutoff race at the Charlotte Roval. Look for those with little to lose to risk it all to playoff drivers' dismay. Now looking at the rest of the sports world, we take it back a couple weeks to IndyCar, where Alex Palou won his 3rd championship in 4 years, and first driver to win back-to-back titles in IndyCar since the great Dario Franchitti. Will Power was the only driver that could challenge Palou during the season finale at Nashville Superspeedway, but like many times before, the power was not there or even buckled in for that matter, as loose buckles forced Power to pit early and go 5 laps down, taking him out of the title hunt almost instantly, and he ultimately would finish 4th in the driver's standings. The driver who moved up to 2nd in the standings was young Colton Herta, who overtook Pato O'Ward late in the race to win his first ever oval race. In the world of college football, Florida State returns to hibernation as they are blown out by SMU. Miami wins in controversial fashion, Rutgers is somehow undefeated, and Ole Miss's paper tiger melts under Kentucky of all teams. Auburn continues to find new ways of disappointing itself after losing to ranked Oklahoma while having a double-digit lead entering the 4th quarter. Go Tigers! Texas A&M wins the award for funniest joke of the week as they found a way to win a game against Arkansas and fall in the rankings to 25th to be tied with UNLV. Speaking of UNLV, it finds its way to 25th in the rankings, their first top 25 ranking in school history. Also, Alabama claims the number 1 spot in the rankings following an all-time classic with Georgia. Kirby cannot beat the Tide no matter how hard he tries, just bless his heart. He tries so hard. The Troy Trojans lose another one after leading an exciting 9-6 barn burner late in the 4th, before giving up a touchdown to ULM and forgetting how to offense and football essentially afterwards. The sun is truly setting over this season, and it really hasn't even begun. Go Trojans! Finally, the Pac-2 has added 5 teams from the Mountain West to become the Pac-7. Those schools include Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Utah State, and believe this, another state in Colorado State. These schools will join before the 2026 season, but the Pac-7 will need to become the Pac-10 to host a championship game according to NCAA rules. These shakeups will most likely be in a long series of realignment in the non-power schools, possibly seeing the end of the now gutted Mountain West. In the world of boxing, the IBF decided earlier this year to strip undisputed heavyweight champ Alexander Usyk of their belt because boxing cannot be any more visibly corrupt if they tried. Therefore, over the weekend, Anthony "Phony" Joshua faced off against dubious Daniel Dubois for the strap. More accurately, the IBF mailed the belt to Dubois with a congrats card and then sent him to face Joshua. I and others thought that Joshua would win big and early, but you forget his middle name is Phony because Dubois sent the former champ to the Shadow Realm, and it wasn't even remotely close. Joshua wanted the smoke early and did not even flinch when Dubois sent a dynamite right hand over the top that put Joshua down at the end of the first round. Joshua never recovered, and in the fifth round he landed one power shot, which gave him the confidence to try intimidating Buster Douglas in the Evander Holyfield title fight and attempted an uppercut telegraphed from across the whole world on a standing straight up Daniel Dubois, who promptly booped Joshua on the nose with a counter right and sent him into a break-dancing routine, crashing to the canvas. Dubois is now a heavyweight champion and seems poised to fight whoever he really wants to. Give a shot to Big Bang Jong for me, please. Also, Devin Haney is suing Ryan Garcia. That's right, 2 lawsuits this week over many things, such as battery following their April matchup, where Garcia came in overweight and demolished the unblemished Haney. However, Garcia's victory was not all as it seemed. In fact, he was doing some cheeky drugs on the side to gain an edge over his opponent. Garcia has since been temporarily banned from boxing, and the fight has been ruled a no contest. This lawsuit is just another bump on the increasingly bumpy road known as Ryan Garcia. Well, there you have it, everyone. Another week of racing and sports in the bag. Hope you all enjoyed this episode of JABO. I'm your host, Brendan Bryan, and I will see you again next time.